Hey guys, what's up? This is Swabby here. In today's video, we're going to be discussing Spellblade, and Spellblade is an interesting class because there's really not a whole lot of information out there. In fact, if you go online and you look up build guides on, some of the more popular sites out there like maxroll.gg, you're going to find very little information available. In fact, there's actually only one build guide available. There's one guide. And Spellblade does not have an endgame guide. They only have a leveling guide. So we click it just for shits and giggles, and we go in and we see, okay, so this is what they recommend. Shatter Strike, Enchant Weapon, Firebrand, Flame Ward, Teleport. I'm on board. All of those are good. Skills and passives, they basically laid down a very good starting guide. I found that their guide is pretty spot on. With that said, there's some things that they did not get right. We'll touch on that in a minute, but all of these points, fine. All of these points, fine. Everything as they have here, pretty solid. This will get you to the point in which we actually begin. We have no uniques at all, and we have no set bonuses. We have nothing special. This is just average run-of-the-mill stuff. This is okay. This is fine. This will get you to early Monolith. But there's no end game at all. I actually wound up not doing what it recommended in the guide on max roll. It says to go to the Black Sun first. I actually went to the Stolen Lance first. I didn't know why. I just did it because it was lower level, and I said, okay, maybe I should just go there first because it's lower level. I got here at level 58, right? And I was still like level 60 when I went there. This was level 66. I said, well, let me just do the lower levels first and get them out of the way. So I went here first. And when I did that, I got the sword. When I actually looked at the tooltip damage, using this was definitely more damage than using a second crystal sword. I said, okay, so there's got to be something to this sword. So that's when I started to look online to see if anybody was using the set. All I did, last epic Spellblade build, you get all these builds that have the sword. You click on them, you see sword. And you click on build planner for this, you see sword. And you click on the build planner for this, you see sword. And you get the point. You see sword. And then you come across the only build that has the actual set. This guy. And you go to the build planner. Now, if you look at what this guy did, he's got an idea. And this idea is truly the right idea. The first thing that you'll notice, let's go back. I'm going to keep that tab open. Let's go back to the shard of the Shattered Lance builds, the many builds. We'll just click on the top one. Health regen is 45. Look at the set bonus. Set bonus is increased melee cold damage per 10 health regen. He's got 45 health regen. Why would you wear the set if you're not going to use the set bonus? The swords are fine, and yes, the melee cold damage and the increased melee cold damage are definitely good, but the set bonus can make them significantly better, which is what this guy realized when he did his 277 health regen build. Now, I had the same idea, only I had my idea by accident. And I came across all the 2 sword builds and said, okay, so these guys are using 2 swords. I wonder what the second piece of the set is, though. So I Googled it, and I found this. And I said, well, that seems pretty good. Because the swords give base melee cold damage. The set bonus increases melee cold damage. So it's obvious that you would include the sword for the increased melee cold damage. But nobody's doing the health regen. So why would you have the stacked melee cold damage if you're not taking advantage of the scaling of that damage? And seeing 96% increased health regen, I said, okay, that's your scaler. Why are people not using this? Why are they using 2 swords? So I started to do the math, and I realized that it didn't take long for me to actually outscale having 2 swords by using this just by adding health regen. I got this piece first, which increased my health regen by 117%. It also subsequently increased my cold damage by quite a bit, as well as my critical strike multiplier, which are definitely good things to scale. It also gave me needed physical resistance. Physical penetration is obviously useless, but you know, it is what it is. Freeze rate multiplier. This is a cold-based build. It does freeze. This gives me health gain on freeze. So this is just free health. If I increase the freeze rate multiplier, I just freeze more things and get more health. Cold resistance is something I also needed. In fact, I needed it so much, I have extra cold resistance in my idols. So I was like, okay, this seems like a good piece. I'll use this, and that's what got me started. I had this, and I had this, and I also found this, which basically is a very, very good 99% implicit, 98% cold damage roll. Not the greatest melee cold damage roll, but, you know, I'll take it. Still tier 4. At the end of the day, I said, okay, this build's going to happen because I've already got the pieces of the puzzle here. I just need to get this. And while I was going for this, I wound up getting this, which gave me another 105% increased health regen. And I said, okay, this is out of control. So now we have super massive health regen. I'm like off the charts here. Sadly, it rolled Fizdam and Dex. So, you know, maybe it's good. Maybe the health damage is enough. And then I plugged it in, and this happened. I went from 68,000 to 81,000. That's going to go back up, but I went from 68,000 damage to 81,000 damage just by equipping a ring. And I said, hold on a second, that's madness. And then I realized, if you look at Shatter Strike, it scales with Dex. So that ring is actually a lot better than it seems, because it's actually adding not only increased melee cold damage, but it's also adding increased melee damage. The intelligence only scales the cold damage multiplier at the end. It does not scale the base, which Dex does. So this is adding extra base before the scaling, which is amazing. With that said, we have scaling on top of scaling on top of scaling on top of scaling. What we were missing at this point is we were missing the actual base health regen that we needed for the scaling. So we immediately went to the gloves and we said, okay, we need a max roll on the gloves, which we got 14 out of 14, tier 4, or tier 5 rather. And I actually had a helmet at the time. This guy right here, this is 9 health regen per second, which is only a tier 4 roll. Could have been tier 5, would have been even better. This also gave me increased melee elemental damage. This was great. I was happy with this. In fact, if you look at the tooltip damage on that, that's quite good. This is where I was at the time. So I looked at all this and I said, okay, this is everything's looking pretty good. We're on the right track here. Health regen's 291. That's not a perfect roll. What can we get? And then, you know, we were just kind of leveling and we saw this guy. And I said, hold on, that's 13 health regen. That is only 9. Let's see what happens if I put this guy on. Health regen goes to 313. Damage goes to 81,000. I said, holy shit, this is amazing. Why? What is this? This is not even in any of the guides. Why is nobody using this? 18 melee cold damage. Another 12 health gain on freeze. So that's now 25 health gain on freeze. Massive health. In fact, it's 102 health just by having this helmet on. Okay. I don't even care about the Warcry. The Warcry does nothing for me. I don't even have the skill. It's just there. But this helmet is so good. And it also adds 130 armor, which is, you know, it's nothing to scoff at. 130 armor is pretty solid. This was only giving me 70 armor. So, you know, I'm pretty happy with an additional 130 armor. With that said, we've got a pretty solid contender here. And I started to fine tune and tweak and you know, figure out what I was missing on the boots. This is a sad roll. I only got 12% cooldown. This is very, very important. Cooldown on the boots directly reduces the cooldown time on enchant weapon. Base cooldown on this is 15 seconds. Base duration is 5 seconds. So this is a starting base duration of 1/3 uptime. And that is under Here, concentration adds 1 second per point, which increases the duration to 9 seconds. And then you have the 12 cooldown on the boots, which decrease the cooldown to 13.4 seconds. So now instead of 1/3 uptime, we have 2/3 uptime. If we increase the cooldown even further, we can drive up the uptime. And the goal is to get the cooldown as close to 9 seconds as possible to have permanent uptime on enchant weapon. That's the goal moving forward with the build. I will be redoing these boots as soon as I get an opportunity to. I also would like to have a little bit more ward retention. These are not maxed out. They should be 15. It's instead 13. This belt is not good. The prefix on that is terrible, obviously, has no benefit really at all to the build other than maybe the possibility of hitting an ignite for slightly more damage over time, but this is not meant for that type of thing. This build is supposed to be a one and done, hit him and watch him die. It's not meant to be a tick build. It's meant to be a kill build. With that said, these gloves are, they're okay. Melee attack speed is very low. The health regen is all we're wearing those for. The cooldown is all we're wearing those for. The main takeaways here, what you want to focus on. The helmet is optional. Get a good one of these with high health regen and melee elemental damage. This is a natural upgrade to this. So if you don't have this yet, just get a good one of these. These are a dime a dozen. Get the set, sword, and the relic. You can do 2 swords. I don't know what's better, 2 swords or another one of these. But this is a lot of extra damage. 99% increased melee elemental, 98% increased cold damage. That seems good to me. I don't know what's better. If you do the math, I'd have to get a second sword, which I probably will do. But this is good enough for now. And these are everywhere. You're going to get 1,000 of these. These you have to farm a boss to get. With that said, you might want to farm the boss anyway, because the boss does drop some other uniques that are kind of cool for other builds and definitely sought after. So that's up to you. You can do what you want to do. You can play around, find 2 swords, use a crystal offhand like I do. Do what you want to do. As for the idols are nothing special. We have ward, ward, ward. These also give elemental damage as well. It is very, very important that you get ward per second in these 2. These are incredibly, absolutely necessary to the build because it's low health. That ward is essentially what's keeping me above 2,000 health at all times. Without that ward per second, I am not above 2,000 health ever, and I probably will die. So this is incredibly important to the build. Get ward per second, ward per second, ward per second. Ward retention is also good for the build. Anywhere you can squeeze it in. This guy right here, sadness, unfortunately. The only offensive idol I have in here other than the elemental damage is this guy right here. Because I had the room for it, I opted in for more critical strike and more cold damage. That's obviously a good choice, but the rest is just strictly resistances that I needed to fill out and ward. With that said, nothing super crazy. Difficulty on a scale of 1 to 10 is probably about a 4 to build. These are a dime a dozen. You get one of these almost guaranteed every single time you kill the boss. This is kind of the only thing in the entire build that's hard to find, and this is just because it's a random drop. You either get it or you don't, but I would imagine at some point in time there's going to be an economy set up where people are trading. This will probably be pretty easy to get. This just pure dumb luck, but you can roll increased health regen very easily, and the gloves and the helmet, you can very easily roll health regen, flat health regen on those. With that said, that's pretty much about all for the gear. Okay, so for the passives, what we've done is basically we've just done exactly what they did in the max roll guide, which is fine. As I said, 7 points in the scholar. Putting more, that extra point really doesn't do much at all because it only gives you 3 mana and the health is negligible as well. 5 points into mage flurry, 8 points into arcanist. Basically the goal here is just to get you to 20 so you can unlock your mastery. Getting Spellblade, on the other hand, this is where things get interesting. One interesting point of contention with the max roll guide is they actually recommend putting 1 point into infused weapon. I understand the point. While the point is understandable because you have to put a point into something to get to level 20, that point I have found to be completely useless. In fact, if you are reading the skill and trusting that it does what it's supposed to do, it seems like it could possibly be an okay point. But in reality, this does nothing at all. It does not increase the damage. In fact, if you put a point into infused weapon, the tooltip damage does not change. This is a point that was made almost 2 years ago on an internet post in which the devs actually responded stating that it was too difficult to calculate the damage properly in the tooltip, so they just didn't bother trying. With that said, any points allocated into infused weapon is largely an exercise in trust, because you're trusting that A, the skill actually does do something, and B, you're trusting that the devs actually have the calculation working on the skill itself and not the tooltip. Personally, I'd rather have a point that I can tangibly see taking effect and doing something positive for my build. Everything else pretty much the same as it was on max roll. I am not max level yet. I am level 88. So what I've done so far with my passives is essentially the same thing that they've done. What I have finished doing, on the other hand, I have finished adding points into Prismatic Blade. This does make a difference. The cold damage for cold melee attacks, I know it is the same as this right here, but this one actually gives you something else which is more beneficial. We don't care about the cold damage for cold melee attacks. What we care about is the dexterity, because the dexterity is a direct modifier for Shatter Strike. It makes a huge difference. With that said, I go here for the dex and the dex alone. The rest, if it even works, is just a side bonus. After that, I filled out mental fortitude. This is specifically because, once again, intelligence is both a scalar for our Shatter Strike as well as adding additional ward, and this gives you 30 ward per second at 10 points. So this is kind of like just a no-brainer. Absolutely beneficial for defense, absolutely beneficial for offense. This is a great use of points. Where I'm at right now, my next points, this right here is interesting because not only does it give you more melee cold damage, which scales your base, but it also increases the cast speed with teleport. This is just a good point as well. I will be filling this out and getting myself to level 92 with this. For the remaining 8 points, those are situational and definitely up in the air. At this point, I'm not sure of whether or not I wish to do more ward per second with Prodigy, or if I wish to go damage. If I do choose damage, I will choose to go with Ice and Fire, which is the next step for damage. Increase cold and fire damage 7% per point. Increased chance to chill and increased chance to ignite, also 7% per point. This is a great skill for getting additional stacks of ignite as well as chill. The skills are all the same as they were on max roll. I didn't mess with that. They have basically a very well laid out plan there that just works. I wouldn't mess with it. As far as the characters concerned, all my resistances are 75. I would not have lower than that. That's asking to die. I watch people who stream or who do videos, and they always end up ripping in the dumbest way possible because 20 minutes before they went into a place, they looked at their resistances and said, okay, well, I'm only missing 30 cold, I'll be fine. And then like 20 minutes later, they encounter something that kills them with cold damage. And, well, it is what it is. But I wouldn't recommend not having resistances capped. Do whatever you can here. As far as blessings are concerned, the only 3 blessings that matter, I have Shred, cold resistance on hit from Rage of Winter. I have 88% health regen from Rhythm of the Tide, and I have crit strike multiplier from Emptiness of Ash. Those 3 are important. This one, not so much. It does add extra damage to my Firebrand, but I don't care because Firebrand is literally just a generator for me. I hardly ever even use it unless I'm fighting a boss or something that has high health. Shatter Strike is basically what I do. I just walk through a zone, Shatter Strike, Shatter Strike, Shatter Strike. That's it. I'm a one-trick pony. Okay, so let's jump right into a Echo. We are empowered, we are corruption 100, we are level 100, and we have quite a bit of enemy modifiers. We have 50% more health, 38% more health, 30% more health, 29% more health, so these creatures are juiced. I do get a little bit of extra goodies, item rarity and experience, but that is negligible. Moral of that story is we're just doing this for the lulls, and we are going to see, what do we get from this? More item rarity. I just want the runes. I'm good. So we'll do some one-shotting of things. So we run in and we use our flame ward, we gather up some stuff, and then we just go pow, and everything dies. So seems pretty solid, pretty balanced, right? We're not taking any damage at all. In fact, we're gaining health every time we attack something. Feels so good to just kill everything with one button. 77,000 damage crit there. That was nice. 64,000 damage crit there. Nothing to see here. Just massive deeps. And I'm not even fully charged. Like, if I do a fully charged attack, it's pretty gross. Pretty gross indeed.
It is hopeless.
I'm just taking the damage, by the way. Okay, so that was half his health bar. Ooh, this guy's gonna be fun. Watch my health. Full the entire time. All I did was I popped one flame ward and just kept spending mana, and my ward kept, it didn't even move, I don't think. Like, it just stayed 600, 700, 800 the entire time. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. That's been my introduction to Spellblade. Hopefully it is more intuitive and helps you get to actual endgame, not just early monolith, and you can take this as a good starting point, like I took the max roll guide, and you know, maybe you'll come up with something that's even cooler. Please let me know. Leave a comment below and let me know what you've come up with, because I am looking to be even more OP than I already am. This is Swabby signing off. Have a good day.